Alright, today we'll talk about loaded carries. This is probably the simplest category that we'll be covering. Our friend the Prowler has come back as pushing and pulling sleds would be included in the loaded carry category. In addition to that, we have farmers carries, one sandbag carries. One I like to play with some friends is called the ball carry, where you have a friend curl up in a ball and pretend to be a sandbag. We'll go through that today, as well as various other variations. You can also combine these, do one-handed versions. This is a wide world of fun.
So we begin with our old friend the Prowler, demonstrating some terrible Prowler pushing as we saw in the past. The weight's going up and down instead of forward until the end there, initially side to side. All of those will be problematic. A million tiny little steps, not going to give you the same stimulus. It'll still work your heart and lungs, but what we want is some long, deep strides, really extending your hip out the back and really extending your feet out the back. Watch when we do our suitcase carries that you're not collapsing over to one side, or when we're doing our farmer's carries that you're not collapsing towards the front. We're aiming to maintain good posture. Here you see a farmer's carry. I'm nice and upright, my shoulders are down and back, my chest is up tall. We're sustaining good posture while walking with a bit of extra load. With just one hand there, that is a suitcase carry. With two hands, that one was a farmer's carry. The difference being, because the weight's only in one hand, it's a bit more challenging for the stabilizers not to tip over to one side, and that can be really good for training your lower back and obliques, and also your hips. Here is a trap bar. This would still be called a farmer's carry, but this allows you to load it up with a bit more weight, because otherwise you're limited by the dumbbells, which will tend to bump into your legs. So I could put a couple 100 kilos on there and go for a walk and have a real challenge. This one is a sandbag carry. That's a classic bear hug version of a sandbag carry. This one is a great carrying variation. Some ladies have trouble squishing their boobs with this one, but otherwise it's a very versatile movement that just about anyone can pick up. Here is shouldering. This one might be a better option for the more buxom ladies out there. The shouldering of the sandbag can be a bit of fun on its own, just getting it up into position. But that one's a very straightforward kind of carrying. This is getting a bit more into real world type activities. You can imagine if you were in a lumber yard carrying wood around, this might be how you carry it. And here we have Andrew standing in for a sandbag, since we didn't have a heavy enough one to really load it up. I love this one with partners. This is called a ball carry. It's just as much training for the person being carried, having to squeeze their abs so as not to have their organs crushed. So a great variation. Another partner carry here is the fireman's carry. Andrew pretending to be a victim, having just been pulled out of a burning building unconscious. I've thrown him on my back and we go for a walk. It's lots of fun, especially upstairs. And the piggyback. This is probably the easiest partner carry if you don't have some other object to carry around. They can really attach to you around the hips by squeezing in with their thighs, and they can attach around the shoulders with their own arms. So that's probably the easier introduction. Here we have an overhead carry, or a waiter's carry. If we have just one arm, we call that a waiter's carry. It's like a waiter lifting a plate overhead in a busy restaurant. I'm showing you both forwards and backwards there. We want to stabilize as if we're at the top of a press the whole time, using all of those important little muscles under the scapula there, our serratus muscles. Very often with all of our carries, I'll use a figure 8 pattern. That way you get to practice stabilizing while changing direction. That creates a bit of a different challenge through all of the stabilizing muscles. See, I'm demonstrating the different stabilization motions that have to occur through the shoulder. Finally, since we're talking about carries, something else that I'd put in this family, you might call it a locomotion, moving from one place to another, are crawls. I'm not going to go deeply into these today, but Dan John talks about everything else being the 6th movement in his training, and that there is a whole variety of different rolling variations, tumbling variations, and crawling variations that we can play with as part of that 6th movement.